one of the best analysts and commentators in the game, my friend and yours, the one and only, the hirsute, Jimmy Smith.
Oh my God, that's an amazing intro. I so appreciate that.
I'm doing well. How is sunny California?
It is not sunny at all. It's raining right now. It does happen here. So it's gloomy and raining, man.
How many days a year does it rain in your neck of the woods?
God, it feels like maybe a week. It feels like that's about it. You know what I mean? So, it's pretty rare, fortunately.
How do people garden? Do they just do totally ecologically unfriendly things?
Everything is desert. Everything that lives is like desert plants that don't require any water. That's what everybody does, man.
All right. Well, look, let's rewind here a little bit. For folks who may not know, you spent how many years did you commentate for Bellator, by the way?
God, 8 years, I think. 8, 9, something like that. Yeah.
And then M1?
M1 was 2 or 3 years before that. I also did the Affliction shows. Yeah, man, it's been about 10 years in the business.
About 10 years in the business. You spent the last year commentating for the Ultimate Fighting Championship, and that came to an end, right? So you are no longer with them.
Yes.
So let's rewind,
right.
If we can, sort of set the story here in as much as you can tell us. I guess I'll just start with this one. What happened?
Very simply, it was, you're great, fantastic. We love everything you did. We're going with UFC fighters for 2019. So that's it. I don't think I'm leaving out any syllables. It was literally, that was the conversation. It was, we're loved everything you did. Fewer shows. We're going with UFC fighters for those shows. That was it.
So are they doing UFC fighters for all their shows? Is that the idea?
Yeah.
Well, except Joe Rogan, right?
Yeah, of course. But other than Joe, it's all UFC fighters. That's it. We had no issue with your performance. Everybody loved you. But you didn't fight in the UFC, so that's it. That's it. Yeah. I heard some weird stuff about some tweet I sent about Jon Jones or some other crap like that. It had nothing to do with any of that. It was literally that. It was nothing you did. You were great. We have no complaints. But we're using UFC fighters for the shows in 2019.
It's just a bit of a pivot. Wait, first of all, what was the tweet about Jon Jones?
I have no idea. I just had people tweeting that I had tweeted something about Jon Jones, and that was some stupid article that I ran across somewhere that was absolute crap. That's not true at all.
Do you understand the pivot, I suppose?
Yeah, I guess. If you think about it, they have a lot of cachet. They're closely tied to the UFC. The fans already understand who they are immediately. I understand it a little bit, but that's the choice they're making. And also, I mean, if you think about it, one of the things that's really interesting when you look at the UFC's roster on air and in Fox shows and all the stuff they did, it was a kind of a rotating cast. So they use a lot of people they can fight, and then they do on air talent, and then they fight again, and so it gives them a lot of people to use. There's a lot of rotation in there, and so that allows a lot of flexibility for them.
What kind of rapport did you have with the other fighters there? Because one, you had fought, but sort of many moons ago.
Yeah.
And then also you were sort of a Bellator commentator. It was a bit of a weird moment, I think, at least initially. But from the outside looking in, it appeared everything worked quite well.
Everything was great. Yeah, no problems. Fighters like me. Producers thought I was great. Everybody I work with, Anik, Fitzgerald, they all love working with me. Everybody in Fox Dex was fantastic. I had no problems with a good way to look at it is the Jones-Gustafsson fight. The promo was all me, and I didn't work there anymore. I mean, I look at Dana White's Twitter feed, and the promo for Jones-Gustafsson, one of the biggest fights of the year, is just me talking. And I don't work there anymore. So it was weird. There were surreal moments like that where I was like, I'm at home packing stuff because I got to move, and I'm looking at the promo, and it's all me. And I knew at that point already, obviously, I wasn't working past the first. So, yeah, it was weird. But
how long?
It's just strange to hear that. Yeah, no, you didn't do anything. You're like, oh, so no problems with my work? Nope, none. Okay, thanks. All right. Yeah, a lot of moments like that.
Did you have a sense that was coming?
Yeah, my first inkling was actually November 3rd was my first big light bulb. I was supposed to do Cormier Lewis. I think it was November 3rd. With it was supposed to be me, Anik, and Rogan. And then I got an email about 10 days before, and they said, yeah, there have been some card changes, so we're moving the talent around. We want you to do the Moncton, Canada show. And I go to my computer and I pull up the bout sheets, and I'm like, there haven't been any card changes. Something's up. And so that was my first inkling that something was going on. And then, I worked a lot in November. I did 4 shows between the end of October and the end of November. So I worked October, November a lot. But yeah, and also what people who aren't in the business don't understand is a contract for next year, because I only signed a 1-year contract, takes about 2 months to really get done. So if you don't hear anything by mid-November, something's up. So yeah, there were inklings before that.
Someone might say, well, then why'd you only sign a 1-year deal, right? Like, I mean, that's I mean, a lot of these contracts are for often. Now, I'll clarify. I have signed 1-year deals before. I'm working on one right now, but I'm just saying,
yes.
Given the opportunity, a lot of these broadcasting contracts go a little bit longer. Why sign a 1-year deal?
They're almost always 3. That's kind of industry standard is 3. Here's the deal. And so one thing I want to make very, very clear, I took a big risk, and I knew that. And what happened was my contract with Bellator was up, and they wanted to kind of redo the one that I had. It's a long story, but the UFC came to us and said, look, we don't know where we're going in 2019. The ESPN deal hadn't been signed. So their thing was, we think Jimmy's really talented. We'd love to have him on the team. We think he's great. We can't do more than a year deal because we don't know where we're going. No one has anything past 2018. So I called around some people that I knew in the UFC, Anik and stuff like that, and said, what's going on? They go, yeah, we literally have no idea what's going on past 2018. Everybody's kind of in the same boat. And I went, okay, this is kind of a risk, signing a contract for just a year, but I got to take the leap and try. I have to do what I can. And I took a big gamble. I did. And here I am. So yeah, that's why that was their original statement was, we think you're great. We'd love to have you. We don't know where we're going next year. They hadn't signed the ESPN deal yet, so they couldn't do more than a year. And so that's why I'm in the situation I'm in.
It's weird. I mean, here's the thing. It's like, why? I'm trying to understand this. Why sign a guy? I get the idea of signing a guy for a 1-year deal on a trial basis to see if it's a good fit.
Right.
But why make the pivot on the commentary side? Like, how important is it for the commentators to be UFC visible to the audience, right? Like, here's the thing I'm trying to understand. It's like Doc Emmerich. Do I even know if he played in the NHL? Like, to me, it means nothing. Now, he's the play-by-play guy, not the color guy. So maybe that has something to do with it. But I'm just sort of wondering, like, when does that become a priority so important that they have to make these kinds of personnel changes?
What does it also do for them contractually? Hey, when you're done, you'll get airtime.
Right.
What does the message that sends to people who are fighting?
Right.
If you're on the team, you will get airtime. If you play ball, you'll get airtime. You might get a desk job. These guys don't have a parachute, Luke. They don't have anything at the end. So it's another incentive might be on the commentary team. You might get, so even beyond what the fans think and how they do the job and all these things, it's also from their point of view, everything's in-house. You're using people who might be at the end of their career, might need a little incentive. What do? Well, hey, you might get on the Fox desk a little bit. You might do this. You might do that. You might have something when it's all over. So beyond what it does for the fans, and do the fans care? I don't, maybe not. You know, they have to learn how to do the job on the job, which is hard. But it also gives the UFC another incentive for their fighters, and that's important. So from their point of view, it's another way it's kind of another carrot and stick for fighters. Is if you might get on the commentary team, you might do desk stuff on Fox or not Fox on ESPN when you're done, stuff like that.
Yeah. How divorced is that from Dana White though? Because like Tyron Woodley, don't misunderstand me, I think he's a phenomenal analyst. He's one of my favorite when he's really in there digging into the details. But you know, his battles with management are not exactly a secret. So like, who's making these calls?
I have no idea. I mean, it's true. It's very funny in that people kind of. I spoke to Dana White twice in a year. I mean, when I got hired, we had a meeting, I met him. And then my last show in Vegas was the Ultimate Fighter finale. He was at the restaurant we were in, and I just shook his hand and said, hey, man, thanks. It's been a great year. And he went, thank you. You've been great. And that was it. That's literally the only times I've spoken to him. Like, people have this idea that he calls me at home telling me what to say in the next fight. It doesn't work that way, guys. You hear from your producer what's going on. Who's telling him? I have no idea. So I don't know, but people have this idea that we have a bat phone that Dana White can call us in the middle of a show and tell us what to say. It doesn't work that way. Your producer tells you what to do. Who tells him? You have no clue. I have no idea. So, yeah, it is strange to me, too, that, 1 second there's this management conflict, and then I see that guy on air. Yeah, I don't have no idea who makes those decisions. No clue.
Now, I am certain I know the answer to this, but for the purposes of just making it clear, someone would say, well, if they're going with all UFC fighters, how is Joe Rogan still there? And the answer, I think, would be what? That Joe Rogan is enormously popular, literally has the most popular podcast on iTunes. Sort of speaks for itself, no?
Joe Rogan's Joe Rogan. That's honestly, people in the UFC say that. Oh, that's Joe. Like, there is, the rules apply. The rules don't apply in that sense, where Joe's popular, fans love him. He's Joe Rogan. He's an entity of him, unto himself. Right. And so, yeah, it's when they told me, yeah, we're just going with UFC fighters going forward. Yeah, that also includes Joe. I mean, I know that, so he's an entity unto himself, and the fans love him, so he's earned that spot.
Yeah, he's an institution. I get it. I was just sort of making it clear that, like, everyone's like, well, he's not a fighter, and blah, blah, blah. So, okay, yeah, there's an understanding there. So then, looking back on the last year, how was it? I mean, you seemed to thrive in the role insofar as it was fleeting.
Yeah, it was great. I mean, there was no problem at all. They used me a lot especially with the promos and stuff like that. I really enjoyed working with the desk. All the producers were great. Everybody I worked with was great. I had no complaints at all, man. It was absolutely fantastic. So, you got to just move forward.
How different was it from the Bellator experience? Granted, it was much shorter.
Yeah, well, it was much shorter, but the nuts and bolts of the job really aren't that different. And our producer at the UFC, at the Bellator, used to produce at the UFC. So the language of the production is pretty much the same. You sit down in the meetings, you get it, you speak this. It's almost, how can I explain? If you played for Bill Parcells and then you go to a different team and that coach learned under Bill Parcells, that's how it is. They might say things a little differently, but it's the same verbiage, it's the same language. And so I fit into it very, very easily. And everybody there knew who I was. And I had known some of them at least by reputation. So, yeah, it was an easy fit, man.
Fair enough. Looking back on the experience, do you now regret taking the leap, or was it still the right risk-reward decision?
That is a really question. The information I had in front of me at the time, it was the right move to make. Period. It just was. There was nothing I could have done any differently that would have changed that. I'd rather not start 2019 with no job. That's not great. But everything I had in front of me, it was a right time to make the right leap. And it was a risk I knew at the time I was making. I mean, nobody forced me to sign a one-year deal. I knew the deal. And with the information I had in front of me, it was the right choice to make. And that's the only way I can see it, man.
Yeah, no, I think look, even decisions that end up working not in your favor, the way you evaluate them early, it can be, under those conditions, are the only ones you can really understand them. So I certainly think it was the problem. Who says no to a UFC commentary gig? I mean, honestly, right?
Yeah, yeah, it was pretty much, it was a move I had to make, and the timing was right, and you got to make that leap. And people who are critical of the UFC or anything like that, I signed a one-year deal, and they honored a one-year deal. You can't ask for anything more than that. I knew at the time I was taking a big leap, and yeah, it didn't work out in the long run in terms of now, but you have to take those leaps sometimes, and that's what I did. There's not necessarily a net, and sometimes you hit the ground, and that's it. You keep walking.
Folks have asked me this, so I'll ask you this. Any opportunity to go back to Bellator?
No, not that I'm aware of. One thing people have to keep in mind, and the fan response has been great. I mean, it's been really humbling. It's been fantastic, the support I've gotten. When you go to a promotion that already exists, Bellator, they have to either add you to a rotation. If you watch the Bellator show, they have a lot of on-air talent right now. And they have to add you to that mix, or they have to get rid of somebody. To get rid of somebody, unless this is the end of their contract, January 1st, 2019, you have to eat the rest of their contract. People don't understand. You got to pay them because you can't just tell somebody you're out. You got to pay them. So that's another huge expense. So it's all about timing and opportunity. And right now, I don't see that. Could be possible, but right now I don't see that. There has to be room for you on the team. And right now they got a full squad.
So has there been any response from other MMA organizations? Is there anything you can tell us about what could be in your future?
No. The problem is another thing that once again, love the fans. You guys are great. I got the call December 10th that I was unemployed in 3 weeks. December 10th to now is probably the worst time to find a job. What people don't get is
right.
Nobody goes into December 15th going, God, who are we going to use in 2019? They already know. All these decisions have been made in November, October. So, you know, when we're calling around looking for work, a lot of the response is, yeah, we love Jimmy. He's great. We already know what we're doing in 2019. We made this decision in November. So it's hard because 2019, your roster is pretty much full in October. People, they don't make this decision now. They've made it a while ago. So the fans are messaging me, saying, oh, you should work for so-and-so and so-and-so. A lot of these decisions have already been made by this point in the year. So the timing was not great in terms of finding a gig for 2019. Well, obviously we're looking and we'll find something, but that's been the impediment so far is the timing was pretty bad.
I know I get messages like this from fans too, very different ones, but of a similar origin. They'll say things like, oh, look, what you need to do is get Conor McGregor on your show. And I'm like, I can't believe I didn't think of that.
Okay. Why didn't I think of that? Oh my, that guy.
They think, in other words, they think we have much more control over these factors than we actually do.
Exactly. And, you know, I was talking to a broadcaster who got released in the fall, and he was told, oh, now you can do football. And he goes, you know, they decide that in the spring who does football. They don't decide in September who's calling football. So he got released in like September, like, oh, you can do football now. And they're like, you know, that gets decided 4 months ago, right? You know, people don't understand the time frame for these things. It takes a while to get going.
But no plans to leave the industry. Still confident at some point when this year winds down, what are you thinking for 2019?
I mean, everything's open. Everything's an option. It's you know, I've been in MMA for coming up on 20 years. I've been in broadcast for since 2006, 12 years, 13. I mean, yeah, you keep going because this is what I got good at. You know, this is what I learned how to do. This is what I've excelled at, is this. So, yeah, I'm going to keep plugging away at it. But I'm open to everything, and we'll see what happens.
All right. Well, I'll say this. Who gave you the shiner? And please tell me it was somebody small and you deserved it.
Oh, yeah. No, I completely deserve it. This is from the Long Beach Poly Wrestling team here in Southern California, where I went to high school. I've been volunteering with the team, and I was wrestling with the guys last week, and I got a knuckle right in the eye. So, Joel, at Long Beach, going down there today, and I'm going to get this black guy back, all right?
All right. Well, Jimmy, if folks want to get in touch with you, Twitter? Just the DMs are open?
You bet, man. They always are. Jimmy Smith MMA on Twitter, J Smith MMA on Instagram. Love to hear from you guys.
All right, Jimmy. Well, I don't know how you're feeling these days. It's kind of shitty to lose your job right before the Christmas holidays. But, dude, truly you are one of the best in the industry, either on the analyst desk or cage side. I enjoy your commentary, and I am confident one way or the other I'm going to hear it again sometime soon. So be perseverant, be patient, because I'm sure good things are headed your way.